It always begins with a dazzling illusion. She studies your emotional language like a scientist observing a specimen. Every compliment, every gesture, every moment of empathy is carefully calibrated to make you believe you've found something rare, someone who finally sees you. But this is not love, it is strategy. The narcissistic woman creates a mirage of intimacy to lower your defenses. Her attention feels intoxicating because it fills the voids you've long ignored within yourself. You start chasing her approval, not realizing you've stepped into a psychological maze built on control and dependency. The truth is, she mirrors your strengths to make you trust her, then uses your vulnerabilities to make you stay. What you think is connection is actually conditioning. It's how she ensures your emotional loyalty while slowly dismantling your self-worth. Carl Jung once said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You must see illusion for what it is. A performance designed to keep you asleep. Once you awaken to that truth, power begins to crumble. The moment you stop chasing her approval is the moment you start reclaiming your freedom. Control rarely arrives as domination. It arrives as subtle influence. She doesn't demand your obedience. She trains you to offer it willingly. Through carefully chosen words, strategic silence, and emotional withdrawal, she conditions your responses until you begin to anticipate her moods like a reflex. You stop expressing your truth, not because she forbids it, but because you fear the consequences of her displeasure. This is psychological control at its most refined, when you no longer need to be told what to do because you've internalized her expectations. Gaslighting becomes her most effective weapon. She rewrites reality with such confidence that you start questioning your own perception. What was once clear becomes uncertain. What once hurt now feels like you're far. You begin to doubt your intuition, which is exactly what she wants, because a person disconnected from their inner compass is far easier to control. Jung believed that where love rules, there is no will to power. What you are experiencing is not love. It is a struggle for psychological dominance. The moment you recognize that truth, the spell begins to break. Real love liberates the mind. Manipulation enslaves it. Choose liberation before she convinces you that the cage is comfort. Enabling a narcissistic woman doesn't happen through weakness. It happens through compassion misdirected. You keep forgiving her because you believe empathy can heal what's broken in her. But that's the trap. Every time you excuse her cruelty, every time you silence your pain to keep the peace, you're teaching her that her behavior has no consequence. She learns that she can wound and still be welcomed. That's not love, it's reinforcement. She thrives on the energy you surrender, your attention, your reassurance, your constant effort to fix what she keeps breaking. This dynamic feeds her ego while draining your spirit. You become the stabilizer of her chaos, the anchor that allows her to keep manipulating without ever facing herself. What you think is loyalty is actually participation in your own disempowerment. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the unseen parts of ourselves we refuse to confront. In her, that shadow is projected outward. In you, it manifests as avoidance of truth. You tell yourself you're helping her heal, but in reality you're protecting her illusion. The moment you stop enabling her, she will rage. But that's the proof that your boundaries are working. Compassion must have limits, or it becomes self-destruction. Walking away from a narcissistic woman isn't as simple as logic suggests. You know she's toxic. You know the pain she causes. Yet something keeps pulling you back. That force isn't love. It's a psychological bond born from the cycle of pain and reward. She breaks you down, then lifts you up just enough to make you crave her approval again. This emotional roller coaster floods your brain with confusion, guilt, and a distorted sense of attachment. It's not affection, it's addiction. You become loyal to the very person who dismantles your peace because your mind clings to the rare moments of kindness as proof of potential. You keep chasing what once was, believing that if you love her harder, the illusion will return. But that illusion was never real. It was a mirror of your own unmet needs. Jung wrote that no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. You must face the dark truth of that bond to grow beyond it. See it not as love, but as a lesson about your own emotional patterns. Freedom begins the moment you stop romanticizing your pain. What you mistake for connection is actually your soul asking to be set free. Awakening doesn't come in a single moment. It unfolds slowly, like fog lifting after a long storm. At first, you start noticing small cracks in her perfection, the inconsistencies, the contradictions, the manipulation hidden behind charm. What once felt magnetic now feels heavy. That's not weakness, that's awareness beginning to surface. This is the moment the narcissist fears most, because awareness threatens her illusion of control. Once you start seeing her patterns clearly, her spell begins to lose its hold. But awareness alone isn't enough. It must be followed by courage. You'll be tempted to rationalize, to tell yourself she didn't mean it, or that things will change, yet deep down, you know better. The truth is painful because it dismantles the fantasy, but only truth can heal. Self-respect begins where denial ends. Jung often spoke about the process of individuation, the journey of becoming whole by facing what you've avoided. Seeing through manipulation is part of that journey. It's how you reclaim your autonomy and rediscover your inner authority. When you stop negotiating deception, you stop betraying yourself. The light of awareness doesn't just reveal who she is, it reminds you who you were before her. And that realization is your first act of freedom. Breaking free isn't just about leaving her, it's about reclaiming yourself. Narcissistic woman thrives on your emotional reactions, your attempts to explain, justify, or prove your worth. The more you engage, the more energy she draws from you. Detachment, therefore, isn't cruelty, it's self-preservation. When you stop feeding her chaos with your attention, she begins to lose her power. This is where silence becomes your strongest form of resistance. But liberation also demands inner rebuilding. You've been conditioned to question your instincts, to doubt your strength, to see love as endurance. Healing means reversing that conditioning, learning that peace is not boredom, that boundaries are not selfish, and that love should never require self-erasure. As Jung taught, individuation requires separating your identity from the projections of others. In breaking free, you are not running away. You are returning to your authentic self, the one she tried to erase. Freedom will feel unfamiliar at first because chaos has been your comfort. But stay with it. Let stillness teach you who you are without her influence. Remember this, walking away isn't rejection, it's self-respect in motion. The moment you choose yourself over the illusion, the cycle ends and true healing begins.